Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Beyond the Game podcast. I'm Owen Reynolds alongside my partner for today, Noah Petros. Today, we're going to be talking CC basketball, Michigan and Michigan State hoops, and then we're going to end it off with some hockey. So let's start with CC Noah. The team finished runner up in the Catholic League playoffs, falling to Toledo St. John's by one in the finals. By the time this is released, they will have either lost or beaten Northville in the district finals of the state playoffs. Noah, would you define a 14-6 season and 6-1 first in the Catholic School League as a successful regular season for the Shamrocks?
What's up, Owen? The Shamrocks have not really been a basketball school as of lately, so I think 14-6 and 6-1 is great for them. I think the goal for the Shamrocks at this point is simple: win the state championship. The Shamrocks have played every loss this year very tough, and it looks like they only need a player or two to win a few of those games.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Noah. I feel like this was a successful season for Tory and the Shamrocks because this is still a young squad. And like you said, they lost in very competitive games to very competitive teams. There's 6 losses this year. And like you said, if they didn't lose to a competitive team, they were all close basketball games. They never get blown out. They never do that. And that's what Tory Jackson also likes to preach about them being a defensive team, not getting blown out. So, also what I like to see is that they have so much potential being a junior team, and I expect them next year to even take a step up from what they did this year in the regular season. So, Noah, we've been talking playoffs so far. Who do you think the Shamrocks should look to lean on in these playoffs?
I mean, I was watching the game that we called earlier this year versus U of D, and I saw that Andrew Walker scored like the first 12 points, so I think the Shamrocks should rely on him in order to win.
Yeah, Noah, I don't want to steal your answer, but I was going to say Andrew Walker as well. And what I love about Andrew Walker is that he doesn't rely on the jump shot like guys like YSL Davis or some of the other guys on the team do. He can get to the rim. He finishes at the rim. I remember that game. He had all 12 of his points, the first points of the game at the rim. And then once he gets to finishing at the rim, he'll start finding his jump shot around the arc too. So my same answer so I would also go with Andrew Walker. So Noah, this is the big question. What do you think should be the goal the rest of the year for the Shamrocks in the playoffs?
I think their goal is just gonna be don't let the hype get to you. They can play a team like Northville, they can play a team like Rice or St. John's, but they just have to treat them all the same. It's a win or go home game.
So where do you see them finishing the state playoffs? Like what do you think would be seen as successful? Like what round or
I think what would be seen as successful would be around like the final four for them.
Final four, yeah. So high ceiling there. I feel like with how good they are, like you said, I feel like the goal should be probably at least the court regional finals or quarterfinals. And I'd say if they got to the final four, that'd be very successful season. I don't think much people would expect that, but with this team and how they're built, anything could happen with them in the playoffs, especially this year in the playoffs. Like I said, they're a young team. So even if they don't end up going as far as we think they should, they're still going to be gaining that playoff experience, which is going to be vital for them in years to come. So now we're going to stay with the basketball topic, except we're going to switch to college. Let's first talk with MSU. After losing 3 out of 4 games, they rebounded with wins over UCLA and Ohio State recently. So now, as we are filming this, they're ranked 13 in the country. Noah, how are you looking at this MSU team after the speed bump they just hit with the 3 out of 4 losses?
I mean, these last few games for the Spartans have been on and off for them. They had a great game against UCLA, and then their performance against Ohio State wasn't really as good as people expected. They played Purdue next, and then they end the year versus Michigan. And I have them losing both of those games, but I do have them winning their other games to end the year, and they just need to get their stuff together for March Madness.
Yeah, I feel like they do have one of the toughest schedules coming home in this season. And I feel like even though they lost, and I know they've been very inconsistent, I've seen them show a lot of grit just as a team hustling. They've been hustling a lot more than when they did when they lost 3 out of those 4 games. It seems like they're getting a little bit of the life back into them that they lost during those 3 losses. So it's going to be interesting to see what they could do in the Big Ten tournament. And then, like you said, March Madness. All right, so now we're going to go to Michigan. who is coming off a heartbreaking loss to Duke. They now find themselves at number 3 in the country after losing as the number 1 team. So, Noah, how do you feel about Michigan winning the Big Ten with 3 straight conference games to end out the season?
I mean, Michigan does have a tough game coming up against Illinois, and I do have them losing that game, but then they have an easier game against Iowa and then a game against MSU. Who I have them winning those 2 games, and they should get the number 1 seed in the Big Ten, and they and probably a number 1 seed in March Madness. But right now, if you're Michigan, I just would not play as tough because I want to like save your energy, save your injuries, is for like when March Madness comes around.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think Michigan is also going to win the Big Ten. I think they're going to lock it up. If you win one out of the two, the MSU or Illinois game, you basically have the Big Ten on lock. So, besides that, I think it's interesting you bring up the resting your guys. I feel like they can't really rest their guys against Michigan State in the rivalry game, though. I feel like even if you have the Big Ten locked up in that game, I'd like to see them play everybody because of the rivalry that it brings. And I feel if they don't play all their top guys, then you might get a lot of media, a lot of people watching that if you're Dusty May.
I mean, I still think they're gonna play their guys, but I don't see them like playing Yetzel Lundenberg for like 35 minutes in the game.
Okay, yeah. So you just see more of like Trey McKenney, Will Cheddar, and those guys coming off the Roddy Gale coming off the bench, like just not completely not playing them, but just like restricted minutes. You a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now I'm gonna bring up a point to you, Noah, and I found this stat a little interesting. So Elliot Cadeau has been 16 for 41 from the field in 3 point or less games that Michigan has been in all season. So I bring up the question to you: is Michigan a good team when Cadeau isn't at his best, and then when Cadeau is playing at his best, they turn into an elite team?
I mean, I think Elliot Cadeau right now is really holding this Michigan team back of being the best because against Duke he went like 0 for 5 from free and
1 for 9 from the field.
yeah, he just he just missed a lot of shots. He's not really a good free throw shooter, and it just looks like when he's on his best game, this Michigan team is on their best game. But when he struggles, this it looks like the whole Michigan team gets like held back.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. No, I feel like there's two different Michigan teams, and it depends on Elliot Cadeau. When he isn't at his best, I feel like it's just a team that's they're very good still, but I feel like he's holding them back where their ceiling is probably only an Elite Eight team when Cadeau is not playing his best. But when Cadeau is playing elite and he is playing at his up to his level, I feel like they're a complete different team. They're a national championship team when Elliot Cadeau's playing good. And then when Elliot Cadeau isn't playing at his best, like we said, those LJ Casons, those Trey McKennies have really been holding this team together with them coming off the bench and providing minutes when Cadeau isn't at his best, like in that Duke game, like some of the other bigger games that Michigan has had all season. So, Noah, we're gonna go to hockey for the last segment of the day. So, what was your overall breakdown of that game versus the Canadians?
Something that I felt like about that game is that the U.S. just took it personally. They lost in 2010 in the gold medal game to Canada in overtime. They lost to Four Nations last year to them in overtime, and they were doubted all year in the Winter Olympics. They didn't play their best game, and they still like found a way to win.
Yeah, it's completely amazing what the U.S. men were able to do with their first gold medal in hockey, men's hockey, for 46 years since the Miracle on Ice in 1980. And with this gold medal squad, it was just 6 players from Michigan as well on this team. And it just feels like anytime the U.S. and Canada face off for a medal, it's just very physical. And you could tell that in the game early. A lot of big hits. Obviously, Jack Hughes got hit into the wall, lost his tooth. It was physical all over the place. And I just love watching a hockey game like that because sometimes in the MLB, I don't want to say it's soft, but I feel like the guys don't go for as big of hits when you know it's USA versus Canada and you're playing for your country.
Yeah, and remember last year during the Four Nations, the game started out with 3 fights in like the first 10 seconds.
Yeah, I remember that, and that was crazy as well. And I also would like to say that Connor Hellebuyck just played a lights out game at goalie for the Americans, only allowing one goal, and those saves that he made when they had two one-on-ones with the goalie, and those saves from him were just absolutely amazing. And you could feel like even when the US was up 1-0, you could feel that the Canadians were most definitely going to come back. And at one point I felt like even the Canadians were going to win. They had the 5-on-3 for us on the power play, and then when they came back, held them off, and then won in overtime, it was just an amazing game. So thank you for listening to another episode of the Beyond the Game podcast. I'm Owen Reynolds, Noah Petros, and we'll catch you in the next one.